sack around Warhol's heart, untouched by the bullet, and massaged the organ by hand. Death averted, once again. Now Rossi cut into Warhol's right side, slicing from near the entry wound almost to the breastbone as he hunted for damage. Stories have been told of 3 or 4 bullets piercing Warhol's body, or of the lead from a single slug ricocheting inside his torso like some hellish pinball game. But Rossi found that a single slug had punched straight through the dying man. He saw where it had nicked the inferior vena cava, a garden hose vein in the middle of the body that feeds blood from the legs back up to the heart, and that a clot had formed there that was keeping Warhol from instantly bleeding out. Making a new slice into the dying man's chest, down to the bottom of the breastbone, then deep through Warhol's abs and straight toward his belly button, Rossi ratcheted the mess open with a steel retractor to get a clear look at the damage. "I'd never seen so much blood in my life," recalled Maurizio Daliana, the chief surgical resident at the time. Rossi found more destruction. 2 holes in the arc of the diaphragm muscle pierced both right and left as the bullet crossed through Warhol's body. An esophagus severed from the stomach so that food and gastric acid were spilling out from below. A liver whose left lobe was mashed and bleeding, and a spleen utterly destroyed and spilling more blood than any of the other organs. Solanus's bullet had also cut a ragged hole in Warhol's intestines, releasing feces and upping the chances of fatal infection. What was left of the spleen had to go, while the liver's injured lobe was also a hopeless case. Rossi used huge stitches to seal it off from the bulk of the organ so it could be sliced away without losing more blood, which was still flowing into Warhol as a transfusion and out again through the new holes in his body. By the end of the operation, he'd received 12 units of blood. A body without leaks normally holds 10. Just as things were getting under control, the OR was thrown into turmoil again by a visit from the hospital's top doctors. They told the surgeons that the man whose life they had better be saving was the superstar artist Andy Warhol, the very man who had made the term superstar famous. And a crowd of reporters and groupies was waiting downstairs. "He cannot die," said the visitors. Rossi had barely heard of the artist or his antics. He returned to the open body and took on the tricky repairs that remained. He tackled the oozing intestines, cutting out the damaged part and stitching together the clean ends. Then there was the severed esophagus to reattach, the most finicky procedure that evening. Rossi had to use the finest silk sutures and make sure the connection to the stomach was perfect. Any misalignment or excess scarring might have left Warhol in misery, unable to swallow properly. He did, in fact, go on to have trouble eating, remembered one doctor friend. Exhausted from a long and tense operation, Rossi inserted all the standard tubes for drainage and closed up the body whose innards he had gotten to know. For convenience and safety, and maybe because he wasn't at all sure his patient would live to care, Rossi used huge stitches that gave Warhol's torso a network of Frankenstein scars. He showed them off for years to come. 1. 1928 to 1934. Birth, Pittsburgh, Carpatho-Rusins, Church. The worst place I have ever been in my life. Andy Warhol, or rather Andrew Warhola, was born on the 6th of August 1928 in a grim little flat on Orr Street in Pittsburgh's Soho neighborhood on a middling hot day under overcast skies. Andy's eldest brother, Paul, who was born in the same room 6 years earlier, told the story that he'd heard his mother's screams, and then somebody said, "It's 5:30, although whether that was morning or evening has never been clear. Depending on who you believe, either a doctor or a midwife was in attendance. Warhol's father was also Andrew, born Andrzej or Andriy.